You are studying hard, aren't you? They played really well, didn't they? The people of Bangladesh are hospitable, aren't they? Yes, dear students, I hope you have already guessed the topic of today's discussion, that is tag question or question tag. Tag question follows very simple rules. It's not that difficult to follow those rules. Tag question is an inevitable part of spoken language or conversation. So what is tag? Tag is a statement that is followed by a mini question. That mini question or short kind of contracted kind of question is called tag question. Tag question is used for confirmation or some kind of agreement. Tag question has two basic things that you have to remember. First thing is the statement. If the statement is in affirmative form, the tag will be in negative form. And if the statement is in negative form, the tag will be in affirmative form. Okay? This is one of the basic rules. Another thing is how you are going to make the tags. You have to use the auxiliary or the be verb to make the tag, and after that you have to use the pronoun of the given subject. That's the basic thing. And don't forget the question mark at the end. So in tag question answering, you are going to underline the tag part that you are making. Don't forget to underline the tag part. And another important thing is you have to make the tag question using small letter. Do not start the tag question using capital letter. I think I'm clear to you, aren't I? Dear students, let's see the contracted forms that are used to make tag questions. It's also very important. We have to use the contracted forms of is not, isn't, will not, won't, would not, wouldn't, shall not, shan't, must not, mustn't, ought not, oughtn't. Okay? And there is an exception of these contracted forms, that is am. In case of am, the contracted form will be aren't. This is one of the exceptions in tag question. In case of am, you are going to use aren't. Okay? And if there is am not, then you are going to use am. For example, I'm regular in class, aren't I? And if there is I'm not regular in class, the tag will be am I? Okay? Now let's dig deeper into the topic. First of all, I want to remind you that when you are solving tag question, you are going to see the tense, person and number of the statement. These three things are very important for answering any kind of grammar items. If you follow the verb form and the number and person of the subject, there is no chance to miss any mark here. You can easily get 5 out of 5 in tag question if you can remember the rules, and most importantly, you can follow the subject and verb properly. This subject and verb plays the main important role in case of tag question. Now I want to show you some examples of making tag questions. It is a nice party, isn't it? She didn't visit there, did she? It might not rain, might it? So now let's move to imperative sentence. Imperative sentence has different structure for tag question. In case of imperative sentence, you don't need to see whether the sentence is in affirmative form or negative form. There are two tag questions for imperative sentence. One is will you and another is won't you. Won't you is for any kind of request or invitation. That is, it's a kind of polite request. And will you suggests an order or command. Okay? For example, shut the door. Will you? Go home at once. Will you? This is a kind of command. And if you say, please lend me some money, won't you? Give me a glass of water, Won't you? So when you are asking for any kind of favor, you can say won't you, because it sounds more polite. Okay. In case of let us, you are going to use shall we as tag question. Okay. And if you say let him, let them, then you can use will you. Okay. Now let's talk about everybody, somebody, anybody or nobody. In case of everybody, anybody, everyone, anyone, someone, the tag will be don't they. And in case of nobody, no one, the tag will be do they. Okay. And everything, anything, nothing, the tag will be, the pronoun will be it. That is, nothing is certain. Is it? Everything looked beautiful, didn't it? So be careful about the tense. And if you find modal auxiliary, like everybody should follow the rules, shouldn't they? So in case of modal auxiliary, you have to use that modal to make the tag. Okay. Now let's talk about complex sentence. If you find complex sentence, then what you are going to do? We know that complex sentence has two clauses, one dependent clause, one independent clause. In most of the cases, we take main clause to make the tag. For example, if it rains, I will not go out. Will I? Here you can see that the first clause is the subordinate clause or the dependent clause, and the next one is the principal clause or main clause. So this main clause should be used to make complex sentence tags. But there is an exception. If you find I hope, I think, I guess, in that case you are going to use the second clause or the dependent clause to make the tags. For example, I think he is honest, isn't he? I guess you are older than he, aren't you? Then in case of have to, has to, you are going to use do or does to make the tag question. And in case of had to, you are going to use didn't. Okay. For example, he has to work hard, doesn't he? Then she had to go there, didn't she? Okay. Then in case of part of, half of, 2/3 of, you have to follow the subject. If the subject after these words is singular, the pronoun of tag will be it. And if the subject is plural, then the pronoun of the tag will be they. The plural of it is they. For example, half of the oil is used, isn't it? Then 2/3 of the books were sold, weren't they? Then not only but also. In case of not only but also, you know that there will be two subjects and you have to follow the second subject to make the tag. For example, not only Lina but also her friends were present, weren't they? Okay. And in case of both and, the subject will be they. For example, both Rana and Russell went to play football, didn't they? Then in case of abstract noun, we have to use it as pronoun or the subject of the tag. For example, the mother rose in her. Here the mother is the feeling, that is an abstract idea or abstract noun. So we have to use it as the pronoun or the subject of the tag. That is, didn't it? Now let's see some different words that suggest negative meaning. These words look like affirmative but they are negative. How? Remember, dear students, these are negative words. For example, seldom, scarcely, hardly, few, little. These words suggest negative meaning. Okay, dear students? So the tag will be made in affirmative form. For example, he seldom visits his village. Does he? She has few friends. Has she? Okay. Now let's talk about proverbs. In case of proverbs, we will use singular subject and singular verb. For example, all that glitters is not gold, is it? Then where there is a will, there is a way. Isn't there? In case of introductory there or it, what we are going to do? You have to make the tag using there or it. For example, there is a school in front of our home. Isn't there? It was not difficult, was it? In case of it is I or it is he or it is you, and after that if you find pronoun, relative pronoun, then you have to use the verb after this relative pronoun to make the tag. For example, it is I who am to blame, aren't I? It is she who has broken the glass, hasn't she? When have and has suggest the possession or state in a sentence, that means it is not an auxiliary verb in the sentence. That in that case, it's better to make the tag using do or does. Okay? For example, he has a car, doesn't he? Then in case of exclamatory sentence, what you are going to do? In case of exclamatory sentence, you just need to follow the same thing like assertive sentence. That is, you will use the auxiliary verb that is mentioned in the sentence. For example, how beautiful the flower is, isn't it? So the form should be the same. So you don't need to change the exclamatory sentence into assertive sentence. It will remain as the exclamatory sentence. Okay? Then in case of demonstrative pronouns, that is this, that and these, those. In case of this, that, the subject of the tag will be it. For example, this is a nice car, isn't it? And in case of these, those suggests plural subjects or plural meaning. So you have to use they as the subject or pronoun of the tag. For example, these books are interesting, aren't they? Now let's know about some nouns that suggest feminine gender. This is also very important as we are using the pronoun of the subject or the noun. For example, country, moon, river, earth, ship, train. These are feminine genders. So we have to use she as the pronoun of the tag. For example, Bangladesh is developing gradually, isn't she? The moon shines at night, doesn't she? Okay. Now let's see the use of need. If need is the main verb in the sentence, then you have to make the tag question by using do, does or did. And if you find need not, that means if it is in a modal auxiliary form, then you have to use need as the tag. For example, you need help, don't you? Then he need not go there, need he? Okay, remember dear students, in case of need you are going to use do, does, did, and in case of need not you are going to use need as the tag. In case of either of the boys or either of the girls, either of the brothers, either of the sisters, then the subject and verb of the tag question will be in plural form. For example, either of the boys has lost his pen. The tag will be haven't they? So, these are the common rules of tag question, and I have tried to focus on all the necessary rules that you need to remember. Dear students, the first thing is you have to follow the subject and the verb of the sentence. If you can follow the subject and verb, you can make the tag very easily. The person and number of the subject and the tense form of the verb. These are most important to answer tag question. So I hope that you will practice these rules, won't you? That's all for today. Hope to see you in next class. Till then, Allah Hafiz.